a gcuine úsle fáilte go sráid na cathairc ar an maidin bog seo. Maidin atá méid ag nochta pleac goram in Omós do Ignatius O'Neill. Fáilte ar le a bheith General Adrian O'Moracú leis ceann fórna óglaigh na hÉireann. Tá míid thar a bheith buíochtait a bheith anseo inniuh ar an ócáid starúil speisialta seo. Guimís 100,000 fáilte ar muintir inéal chun an comóra seo freisin. Ladies and gentlemen, in welcoming you, may I extend a special word of thanks to Major General Adrian O'Moracú, Deputy Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces. Also to the family of Commandant Ignatius O'Neill, many of whom have travelled long distances, including from Los Angeles, to be here for this occasion. This morning we pay tribute to Ignatius O'Neill. We are unveiling a blue plaque at his place of birth behind me. Ignatius was born here 127 years ago. After his education, he moved to the United States and then to Canada. He served in the First World War and was injured in the Battle of the Somme. He was repatriated at the time to England, the UK, and subsequently returned home. On his return home, he joined the 4th Battalion of the Mid-Clare Brigade. And in some ways, the rest is history. 103 years ago, he would have left this house on one day, presume not on the 22nd of September, but would have left his house and headed to Rineen to lead out his troops at Rineen. After that time, Ignatius joined the National Army. He was chief instructor at the military college in the Curragh until ill health set in and his untimely death at 43 years of age, leaving behind his wife Mary and 7 children. Today it is entirely fitting that a plaque is unveiled to Ignatius O'Neill. It is also entirely fitting that that plaque will be unveiled by the Deputy Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces. I now call on the Deputy Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, Adrian O'Moracú, to address us and to unveil the plaque.
Thank you, Mary. Members of the O'Neill family, distinguished guests, committee members, ladies and gentlemen. It's a particular honour for me as an Ennisman and a Clare man to be asked back to unveil this plaque today. Now, I'm going to say a few more formal words later in the Armada, Mary, but today, because I'm watching the clouds and it could rain, I'll keep it short. I'm just going to make 2 points, one personal and one professional. I'll start with the personal. When I was a boy, I used to travel the roads of West Clare with my dad, Christy Murphy, who worked in the post office. And if you needed a phone back in Milltown, Christy would arrive at your door and do the advice note. And then the gang would come a few weeks later and fit your phone. Now, luckily in the summers, I was his driver from about maybe 13 or 14, which of course was highly illegal. But it suited my father because while he never drank a day in his life, he loved the smokes. And he could smoke away comfortably in the passenger seat while I was his personal chauffeur. But every time we passed Rineen, as an ex-soldier himself, he used to burst with pride and tell me the story of the Rineen ambush. Every time we passed it without fail. And I think of him and all the other people at Clare who were so proud of that monument and the people that it's dedicated to. And you know, still on the personal side, the thing that struck me, I was doing a bit of research again this week to remind myself of the story And what struck me from a personal point of view was how these ordinary people made an extraordinary effort for Irish freedom. They were just ordinary people like you and me. And think about what they did. They took on the greatest empire the world had ever seen. It took them a bit of time. It took them a lot of sacrifice, a lot of lives given and wounded and pain. And yet they succeeded. So they were ordinary people that did extraordinary things. Remarkable. So that's the personal point I wanted to make. On the professional point, I've been a soldier now for over 40 years, and I spent a lot of my early days studying ambush techniques and asymmetric warfare and special operations. And I have to tell you, having studied again the Rineen ambush this week from a professional point of view, there is no greater example of asymmetric warfare in the military college where Ignatius worked after. None in our military history than the ambush at Rineen. The remarkable execution of the ambush, the even more remarkable orderly retreat under heavy fire against trained professional soldiers, and that they made an orderly retreat with their wounded, who were very few, and lived to tell the tale. From a professional military point of view, it was a remarkable achievement. And of course, we know that the key factor in that achievement was the leadership that we saw in all the accounts. And that brings me back to Ignatius O'Neill. What a wonderful leader. A man who showed all the values that we hold dear in the Defence Forces, especially physical courage, selflessness, and moral courage. And so, as a Clareman, from both a personal and professional point of view, it is a marvellous honour for me, for which I am very grateful, to unveil this plaque to a leader of the Defence Forces of Óglaigh na hÉireann, who leaves us a fantastic example of leadership, of character, of competence, an example for the ages. It might be over 100 years ago, but it is an example to which we can look today and we can learn a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, Commandant Ignatius O'Neill.
Good morning, everybody. We'll just take a little moment to quiet, and we just remember the people and their selflessness, and also the sacrifices. May perpetual light shine upon them, the faces of all who gave of themselves. May the lives that they lived unfold further in spirit. May all their past travails find ease in the kindness of the clay. May the remembering earth mind every memory that they brought. May the rains from the heavens fall gently upon them. May the wildflowers and grasses whisper their wishes into light. May we reverence these wonderful people who went before us. And may their courage and vision continue to inspire us. We ask you this through Christ our Lord. Eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord. Let perpetual light shine upon them. May they rest in peace. In an manahar agus an Vic, agus an Spirit Nave. Amen.
Gramagat, Father John. I'm now going to call on John O'Neill, grandson of Ignatius O'Neill, to address us. John is in Ireland for his first time. He lives in Los Angeles, and we are delighted, John, that you are available to be here and to address us.
First, I want to say thank you to Major General Adrian O'Muraku and Father Donna, O'Meara, and Mary Crawford, who's been just so kind and welcoming to me. I really appreciate it. And to the Mid-Clare Brigade Committee, and let me mention John and Bridget Wren, who own this store as well. I got to meet them this morning. And let me pause. I didn't realize I had all this grief in me. Thank you so much. I told the Major General that my mom would give him a big hug, so right now, you get a big hug. You get a big hug. So I'll keep it brief. My mom is looking down on us, and she's thanking you for being here. I just want you to know that my grandfather Ignatius was an anchor to me. And that anchor was developed by you. And my mom was my physical anchor. She was born in 1931, and her father died in 1939. She came here in 59. I was born in 1962. But the priest here, Ireland's always been a spiritual anchor for me, and an emotional anchor. I was fatherless at 6 months, but my grandfather, he was my anchor. He was the man of the house, because my mom told me the story of Rineen so many times, and the story of her grandmother, or her grandmother as well, Margaret, and the Lahans. So anyway, that's all I have to say. You're all so beautiful to me, and I love you much. And from my mom to you, a big hug. God bless you all.
So as this ceremony draws to a close, bhfuil an buíochas a gháil le gach duine a ghlacpáirt. Le Mayor General Moracú, Father Donna, John O'Neill, John and Bridget Ring, agus na ceoltóirí Johnny, Sean, Dowdson agus Gary. Míle buíochas libh go léir.
So bhálam fáilte chur rih gach duine inniuh chun ar afran daoine ag fécant ar na líne ag éisteach ar an radio a túil agus na cuairtóirí go léir ag tagtha inniuh chun afran spéisialta seo, as we remember the anniversary, the 100th anniversary of Rineen. And bhálam fáilte spéisialta chur rih the families of the people, and particularly families of the family of Ignatius O'Neill and all the other connections that are here. And I want to welcome Aidan and Muraku in a particular way, and lovely words from Aidan on the street already. So we really want to welcome you here to Milltown on this special day. I want to welcome the committee, Mary, and all the committee who've made this day possible. It's wonderful that you did this to remember. And at the beginning of our Mass, we're going to take a little moment of quiet just to lead us into the celebration and to remember. And it's sacred to remember.
Shlocht as laur I seoile, ní híd má bharta for Martha. Dia ag obair lorigi an tíorna, fad a cuireann sé é féin fáil. Dléige géar, fad atá sé I ngearr. Fágach an corp a droch nós agus fear na thorchóide a bharta. Fila sé an tíorna a ghlacha trúadó, agus árnia atá fáil fi bhathúlis. Orní híd má bharta for Martha, nó ní híd for méláise má bhéláise. Bríthir an tíorna. Is ard iad na spéirithe os cionn na talún, agus is cóhard má bhealaí os cionn for Mally, agus má bharta os cionn for Martha. Bríthir an tíorna.
Second reading, a reading from the letter of St. Paul to the Romans. Do not let your love be a pretense, but sincerely prefer good to evil. Love each other as much as brothers and sisters should, and have a profound respect for each other. Work for the Lord with untiring effort and with great earnestness of spirit. If you have hope, this will make you cheerful. Do not give up if trials come, and keep on praying. If any of the saints are in need, you must share with them, and you should make hospitality your special care. Bless those who persecute you. Never curse them, bless them. Rejoice with those who rejoice, and be sad with those in sorrow. Treat everyone with equal kindness. Never be condescending, but make real friends with the poor. Do not allow yourself to become self-satisfied. Never repay evil with evil, but let everyone see that you are interested only in the highest ideals. Do all you can to live in peace with everyone. This is the word of the Lord.
A number of years ago, there was an attempt to remove history from the second level curriculum in this country. And I must say, at the time, I was deeply uneasy about it. It's detrimental for us to remove our history, because if we do not know where we have come from, we certainly don't know where we're going. History is vitally important to us as a people. This weekend is important because it gives us time to reflect on the people who went before us. Extraordinary, heroic people of high ideals. Martina read there in the second reading, it said, be people of high ideals. And these people who went before us were people of high ideals, of self-sacrifice. And they brought about our state. And we owe them enormous debt of gratitude. Memory is the most powerful thing that we have, because the heart holds within itself all that it receives. But most of all, it holds the connections of our lives. Memory today is powerful for all of you, and particularly for the families who have been connected to those wonderful people. But we cannot use memory to become embittered in ourselves, or we cannot use memory to promote hatred. Memory, at its core, keeps the past alive. The people we remember on this weekend continue to walk with us and talk to us. And they speak to us again this weekend if we allow ourselves to listen.
Guimish son pobl de fod an dawn. Gynnearty dia or gredif. A hirna eislin.
A hirna be counsel agus eislin.
Guimish son dini brocha. Nach federlo ve hi lahar an seo iniu. Agus son siúd atá san ospidéal. Godia solas, faids, agus neart dóibh. A hirna eislin.
A hirna be counsel agus eislin.
We pray that workplaces may be places of justice and care, where no one is exploited for commercial or political gain. Lord, hear us.
Lord, graciously hear us.
We pray for the committee who organize this wonderful commemoration. May they be abundantly blessed. Lord, hear us.
Lord, graciously hear us.
We pray for the people of Ukraine, Morocco and Libya, and all who are suffering at this time. Lord, hear us.
Lord, graciously hear us.
We pray for those who have died. We remember all who died at Rineen. May they rest in peace, and may their memory continue to inspire us. Lord, hear us.
Lord, graciously hear us. Bring you these gifts.
In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we wish to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us. We remember them.
I have the medal of Ignatius O'Neill here. If you'd like to see it, I'm going to leave it there at the front with the other emblems. You might like to come up and have a look at them. Wonderful. They touch us in again to the past and to all that had happened. So, Gomanadia Ilakokta Shiv, Ahar, Mock, August Spirit Nave, Tan Haflin Heart, Imagi, Fuihia Khan.
Okay.
A gwini úsle Tánaiste ar a cosanta is gnóhiachtra Micheál Martin, Mir General Adrian Amaraku, las Count Forna Oglig na Héran. Ara Killeen is a gwini úsle. Fáilte go Rineen chuig an Comóra seo Comóra an Céad atá tríomhlíon déanach mar gheall ar COVID. In welcoming you today, I hadn't envisaged, number one, so much rain, and we probably are going to find that we are going to shorten the speeches here and have those speeches in the Armada because it is extremely wet. There's no need for me to tell anyone that, I suppose. So we will do that. However, though, in welcoming everybody, I particularly want to welcome the families of the people who were involved in this ambush 103 years ago. I also want to mention the people who would be here today were it not for the weather. I'm talking about Frances O'Reilly, niece of Martin Devitt, who was the Vice Commandant in this area, the Vice Commandant of the Mid-Clare Brigade, and the loss of whose life led, in fact, as one of the reasons for this particular ambush. So as we proceed, simply I think what I will say here is that in all of our commemorations, we would place our context in wherever the history is. So after 300 years of oppression, by 1919, the people of this area were ready for independence and for self-determination. So moving on from that, I suppose the person that we have mentioned earlier today, and I know that Major Adrian referred to earlier, Ignatius O'Neill, led out the troops here at Rineen in what was then one of the most significant ambushes in the country, if not the most significant. So we owe a debt of gratitude to the people who fought at Rineen. We owe a debt of gratitude to the men and women of this community and further afield who played various roles in the War of Independence. 13 years ago, on the 90th anniversary, we committed to doing some work and to publicising, I suppose, highlighting the role of Cumann na mBan. We have a lot of work done for that, and we would have hoped to have had a conference, I suppose, around now. That conference is deferred until autumn 2024, but at that point we will be marking the role of Cumann na mBan. We are terribly conscious that insufficient, I suppose, exposure and commemorative events have been attributed to Cumann na mBan members. So we will be marking the role of Cumann na mBan as we go forward. I think at this juncture, I am not going to say any more. I will call on an Tánaiste, whom we are absolutely honoured to be here with us today. Tánaiste, we've had the Minister for Defence on a number of occasions, and the fact that the Tánaiste and Minister for Defence is here is really a major, major bonus, and we are truly appreciative. We also recognise too that you, of course, yourself is a historian, and that your knowledge and your appreciation of our history has never gone unnoticed. So it is an honour and a tribute to the people who were here 100 years ago that you are here in the context of Minister for Defence and as Tánaiste of this country. So I will now call on the Tánaiste and Major General Adrian O'Maraku to lay the wreaths for us. The Tánaiste will lay the wreath on behalf of the Government and people of Ireland. Major General O'Maraku will lay the wreath on behalf of the armed forces. Sorry.
Take the umbrella, Mary. Take the umbrella. Take the umbrella.
Oh, take it, sorry. Yeah.
Caherlig, Mary Crawford agus Rineen agus go háire las ceanna fóna óglaigh na Hérden Adrian na Morachú agus a bhíine uisle go léir Tomid áirithe le céile tróna nuamh chun gomóra cuí ceacht a dhéanamh líocháin an Rineen. Tuaim is céad bliain ó hin, I meán fóir níl mé géad is sa fethe. Is an óir agus is privléid dúin go léir. A bheith anseo ina mós do léacra gael á túra anseo a ridir san na spláchais na tíre, cearta déana agus séirse a bhaint. Léirigh na ceannarí seo misneach agus ionrachas, agus bhí teanachar ag an líocháin seo rudaí a hála ina dhéag sin timpeall na tíre. Gan doubt sprág ceannarí an Rineen, síl an na spláchas. It's a privilege for me to be here this afternoon with my colleagues, Member of the European Parliament, Billy Kelleher, and Deputy Cahill Crowe and Senator Timidori agus Colori Galer. The people, and the people of Clare have always shared a unique sense of community. With the Atlantic's vast expanse as a backdrop, and perched at the far periphery of a continent, it has always had a special place in our national story and culture. This is a resilient place, a place which has always been at its strongest and most dynamic because of a spirit of sharing a common cause and a belief in working together. Few moments in history show this more than the stirring contribution which the people of Clare made to our struggle for independence. And within this, the ambush which took place here in Drummond Hill brought the bravery and sacrifice of Clare to the attention of Ireland and the wider world. The events of September 22nd, 1920, and the weeks following were a turning point in our revolution. They marked a significant escalation of conflict and demonstrated unequivocally that no one was safe from the anger of a wounded imperial power which had so recently won a world war but could not subdue the people of Ireland. And when you look deeply at the events and personalities involved in the West Clare Brigade and the ambush you see, you see the unique nature of our revolution, their complexity, and the role which they played in the progress which our country achieved. We are incredibly lucky in that over a century after the ambush, the men and women who fought then have left many honest and personal accounts of those times. They were not naive. They knew that the struggle would not be easy, and they were as open to passionate disagreements with each other as you would expect from any group of young idealists. In the weeks leading up to the ambush, there was a determination to address the acute lack of arms held by volunteers, and also to show Crown forces that Clare was not safe territory for them, and in this they were motivated also by their comrade Martin Devitt, who had been killed in February. There were disagreements about planning and the date to be chosen, but these were quickly overcome. All of the volunteers from a wide area converged here at 6 a.m. on that Wednesday morning. They were under the command of Ignatius O'Neill, who quickly set about positioning the volunteers and setting up a system of signals as well as routes for withdrawal. They stayed without movement or noise for 6 hours before the first signs of troops were seen. There was no engagement at that point because they mistakenly thought that there were more trucks on the way and that they would be outnumbered. So the troops passed by on their way to Milltown Malbay, and it was 2 further hours before they returned and the ambush got underway. They quickly achieved their objective, but then realised that coming the other direction was a large contingent of troops and they were vastly outnumbered. It was the discipline and organisation of the volunteers which meant that they were able to get away relatively unscathed and to remain active for the rest of the War of Independence. Very soon, the name of Rineen was known to all who followed events in Ireland. Within weeks, it was remembered in a ballad sung broadly throughout County Clare. It was the largest ambush up to that moment, and it marked a major inflection point for the conduct of the war on both sides. For the forces nigh to Dáil, it showed how they could undertake larger actions and move beyond mainly nighttime attacks focused on isolated buildings. In the following months, other ambushes led to the government losing effective control of large swathes of the south. The image of brave volunteers coming together in daring actions became known to the world and underpinned the mass sympathy which was shown to the cause of Ireland. For the government's forces, Rineen was also a turning point. In the weeks and months afterwards, indiscriminate reprisals brought shame and undermined the standing of the largest empire in the world. On the floor of the House of Commons, opposition to policy in Ireland began to find its voice, and the British government began to double down on the extreme countermeasures which they were implementing. Instead of reining in the Black and Tans, they stood behind them, and in doing so, they committed a fatal error which undermined their claim to any moral legitimacy. Rineen was no small event. It was and remains a genuinely historic encounter which both reflected and shaped its time. We can see this in the stories of those who were involved. We can see it in what they shared and also in how they came to differ in the decades which followed. The most detailed account of the ambush, which was gathered by the Bureau of Military History, was given by John Joe Nealon in 1954. He was the 8th of 15 children. A modest man from a modest family, he was in every way committed to the interests of Clare and Ireland. And in this, he was very representative of the ordinary men and women who fought in our War of Independence. From his account, we get a sense of the nervous weeks leading up to the ambush and the long and dramatic hours waiting here. It is clear that Ignatius O'Neill's leadership was critical in terms of setting up the ambush and knowing how to get volunteers away in the face of overwhelming opposition. In the character of O'Neill, you find many of the complexities and contradictions in Irish republicanism. He had emigrated to the United States, and when the First World War broke out, he went to Canada, where he enrolled in the Irish Guards. He fought in Ypres and at the Somme, where he was wounded and sent home after a period of recovery in Britain. And when he returned here, he again signed up, but this time for the cause of Irish independence. And as a volunteer in the Irish Republican Army, the Army of Dáil, he served with great bravery and success. And as he stood in this place, directing his comrades and covering the retreat, he was, as he had been at the Somme, injured. He was carried from here on the back of Michael Dwyer and brought to Dr. Michael Hillary for treatment. Hillary, who was medical officer for the brigade, was, of course, the first in an ongoing list of members of his family who have given such great and distinguished service to the people of Clare and the people of Ireland and internationally to the values which underpin our democracy. It is a reminder that Rineen and other actions throughout the country had an enormous and positive impact. One of the things which distinguished our great revolutionary generation is that they refused to stand still. They rejected the idea of being defined by the needs and methods of one time. They wanted to create a country which could proudly take its place amongst the nations of the world and which would continue to evolve. And because so many of them lived for many more years, we don't need to ask what they might have done later on, or what they would have seen as illegitimate ways to promote Ireland's interests. Overwhelmingly, they devoted themselves to building our democracy, to turning one of the world's poorest countries into a proud and successful country at the heart of the European Union, which continues to face many challenges, but has the ability to overcome them. They were internationalists, as manifested in Ireland's participation and membership of the League of Nations, the centenary of our joining, which we celebrate this year, and of course, our subsequent membership of the United Nations. Built on the bravery of units such as the Mid-Clare Brigade and the overwhelming and consistent support of the Irish people, they remained intricately linked to the communities which they came from. Unlike in many other countries, our revolutionary generation was proud to remember its service, but never allowed a cult of militarism to develop. And they fully embraced the new opportunities opened up by the profound success of their struggle. The fact that we could not meet here to remember them on the centenary of the ambush reflected the shared national effort we were then engaged in to get through the deadliest pandemic in a century. It is because of the dedication and work of the Centenary Committee that it was agreed to go ahead with today's ceremony and to fulfill our shared obligation to remember the ambush and all who participated in it. When it comes to events which framed our history and created so many of our opportunities, we must never forget our duty to remember them, to listen to the story of the complex and diverse movement which won our independence. We have a duty to try to understand their unique service, to be vigilant against the misuse of their memory, and to honor their sacrifices. They have left a powerful, rich, and generous legacy, which the generations of today and into the future greatly appreciate. The coil orthu ivad is again. Ta aran agrin orthu, agus hill na hogli cogli shaw, ba agus trua aglevel na shunta, agus idur na shunta, son hirsha na hirden. Ni yen for darud gojo orthu, on shaw, gunta an clar, agus fud na hirden. But a mila mahogov galer.
We have two amazing, if I may say so myself, two amazing paintings from sixth-year students of the local secondary school here, St. Joseph Secondary School, under the baton of Miss Talty. And Lourdes Talty is accompanied by two students from one student from the school, and one student can't be here. The first presentation will be to the Taoiseach, and Lourdes Talty is going to make the presentation on behalf of the student who painted it, Katie Lodge, because Katie is a member of our junior surf team who will be taking part in competition in Rio very shortly, and she's up in Sligo training today, so Katie can't be here. It is very representative of where we are. The second presentation is going to be made by sixth-year student Faith Downs, and this is her own creation. I think we describe it as a modern take on Rineen, and I think Major General Adrian Murphy will be particularly happy with this one, him being a Clareman to boot. Amazing, isn't it? They're both. Yeah. Two amazing pieces of work. I want to thank Lourdes Talty and all of the students at the school for that major effort. Joe O'Neill, the grandson of Ignatius O'Neill, is going to say a few words.
As they say, it's a soft day in West Clare today. Firstly, may I say a big thank you to Antónis and Minister for Defence, Micheál Martin. Your attendance here today is most welcome and appreciated, as is that of the Deputy Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, Major General Audran O'Muraku. I would like to thank especially Chairperson of the Commemoration Committee, Mary Crawford. Secretary Colin Hennessy, Pat Kirby, Martina Wynne, and all the other members of the committee without whose energy and contributions this event would not be taking place. I first stood here 66 years ago as a little boy when this monument was dedicated. It seems such a short time ago now, and with that in mind, it is very appropriate that we should remember and honour the men of the old IRA and the women of Cumann na mBan who gave us the freedom we enjoy today and which we should never take for granted. I am especially happy today to be able to publicly acknowledge the enormous contribution to that fight for freedom and the terrible price paid by my cousins' families, the Lehans of Craig Lahinch, of which my grandmother May was a member. In the reprisals of the night of the ambush, she lost her brother Patrick, who had been at Rineen, burned to death in Flanagan's in Lahinch. She also lost her father Dan that night, shot in the neck and thrown into his house, which was then set alight. Her older brother Donald, who was also at Rineen, and subsequent to the treaty was a captain in the Western Division of the National Army, lost his life leading his men in the Battle of Killorglin during the Civil War. It is therefore my most humble and happy duty to say another big thank you to Antónis for his contribution to the reconciliation of the two sides of the Civil War and finally putting an end to the bitter politics of the past century. It is very appropriate that the men of Rineen, who subsequently took different views and sides, can today look down on this commemoration and see their descendants once again in unison as to this republic and its path forward. Thank you all for coming here today, and God bless you. Thank
you. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we, I think we're going to ask the girls to sing here in a moment. So this committee has, as I've already indicated, over the last several years, tried to look forward to, I suppose, appreciate our heritage, where we have come from, and where we're going. One, I suppose, area that has been part of our raison d'etre is that we have been inclusive from the beginning. And as Joe has outlined, thankfully the Civil War is long behind us. We also would want to recognise today, though, and I know Joe has alluded to this, we would want to recognise today the loss of life in the Rineen ambush. We would want to recognise the loss of life here at this site, the members of the RIC who died. We want to remember Sean Keane, who lost his life while bringing hay in with his neighbour, Peter Kennelly, just in the field here to the right of the monument. To remember the people who lost their lives in the reprisals, and of course to remember the wanton destruction that was done to the towns of Milltown, Lahinch and Innistimon, to the loss of life in all of those areas. So I know, Father Donna, you have mentioned that earlier, but it would be remiss of me as Cathaoirleach not to do that here again. But our spirit is that of moving forward and appreciation and recognition of the country we have become, the country that we are so proud of. The people of Rineen, as the Taoiseach or the Taoiseach has already mentioned, that the Taoiseach has alluded to the fact already that they are responsible for the country in which we now live, and of course under the stewardship of the Taoiseach. So it's in that spirit I'm going to ask the three Shannon girls, Caoimhe, Aoife and Caitlin, to sing a song for us, and Immediately after that song, we will move to the official part, the last official part of the ceremony, which will be the raising and lowering of the flag, the last post and our on Nevian. So, the song the girls are going to sing is a song by Tim Collins, and it's called Clare, My Heart, My Home.
Tonight, dear friends, I'll sing a song, a toast in glass I'll raise, to a place that means the world to me, on the wild Atlantic wave. A land where blessed feet once tread, where kings and princes roamed, a place of beauty and renown, in Clare, my heart, my home. So raise your voices, one and all, sing out, let it be known, the banners flying high tonight, in Clare, my heart, my home. Lisconnor Bay and Maher's cliffs reach wide Atlantic foam, on Burren's beauty uncompared, majestic land of stone. The rolling hills of Tonda, Inchikrone, in Cragganone, all jewels in the crown that is, in Clare, my heart, my home. So raise your voices, one and all, sing out, let it be known, the banners flying high tonight, in Clare, my heart, my home. Across these lands of ancient ruins, once built by holy hands, from Scalzarry to Colcomrome, from Killaloo to Gwyn, Kilfenora of the Cross, 'tis 7 carved from Burren stone, standing tall, ascending bells of faith, in Clare, my heart, my home. So raise your voices, one and all, sing out, let it be known, the banners flying high tonight, in Clare, my heart, my home. And now it's time to bid farewell, this night must come to end, but I wish you peace and God blessings until we meet again. If ever you return again, of this you can be sure, you'll be welcomed here with open arms, in Clare, my heart, my home. So raise your voices, one and all, sing out, let it be known, the banners flying high tonight, in Clare, my heart, my home. So raise your voices, one and all, sing out, let it be known, the banners flying high tonight, in Clare, my heart, my home.
I'll just mention one thing before we go to the last official part of our ceremony, that the three girls here, both their great-grandfather and great-granduncle fought in the ambush at Rineen. And it is said, I remember telling this to their mother, that when the two of them met at Rineen, wherever it was, one said to the other, I didn't know you were coming here. Such was the way that the organisation was for these events in those days. So now, if I may invite our the Defence Forces and the Ennis Brass Band to I'd just like to pay a big thank you to Frank Whelan and to Sean Nealon. Frank himself is a member of the 22nd Battalion Clare Defence, and Sean's great-grandfather was also involved in the War of Independence in this area. So, Mila Burfis to everybody. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Armada for this celebratory lunch, commemorative lunch maybe, or both. So before we do that, I'm just going to call on one of our committee members to say a few words. That's Paul Minahan.
So as you know, the Mid-Clare Brigade Commemoration Committee is a voluntary organisation. We are a family and community organisation, and we rely completely on the generosity of people like yourselves, and you are very generous for enabling us to organise events such as today, and you do that by buying tickets for our lunches, etc., and turning up to our events. But I'm going to give you a further opportunity to be generous, which is we're going to organise a raffle.
Paul. Now we'll call on Father Donna to say a grace.
In Anamanaher agus and Vic agus and Spirit Nave, amen. I just said I'd read a little poem of memory just to lead us in, because this is a day of remembrance. We give them back to you, O Lord, who first gave them to us. And as you did not lose them in the giving, so we do not lose them in the return. Not as the world gives do you give, O lover of souls. For what is yours is ours also, if we belong to you. Life is unending because love is undying, and the boundaries of this life are but a horizon. And the horizon is nothing save the limit of our sight. Lift us up, strong Son of God, that we may see further. Strengthen our faith that we may see beyond the horizon. And while you prepare a place for us, as you have promised, prepare us also for that happy place, to where you are, we may be also with those who have gone before us forever. Nana Manahara, agus an Vig, agus an Spirit Nave. Amen.
I've just heard within the last short while that we have very good news to announce here, and it is this. Ignatius O'Neill's great-grandson, Joe, is here with a young lady, Megan, and he took her for a walk down the beach a while ago and went down on one knee. Presented her. I see Frank Minogue is getting ready for any big events that might be happening in the future. Presented her with a most magnificent engagement ring. So our congratulations to you on this, the most special of days for the O'Neills. So congratulations and the best of luck as you plan going forward. She has a model of the monument on top. Please, that is not edible, that is made of clay, I'm told. I can't account for some of the other things except to tell you that it is one-tier chocolate. The Deputy Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces is going to cut the cake. He will be doing this with the sword, so we all wait in awe.
Now, if there's a health and safety officer here, I have sanitized the sword.
In introducing Major General Omar Aku, it would be beyond impossible for me to indicate or highlight his achievements and experiences. So what I'm going to do is I've picked a few things that I might reference. Adrian attended primary school in Ennis, secondary school in Ennis in Rice College. Then he moved on to the Irish Cadet School, to University College Galway, as it was called then, to the University of Westminster and the UCD Business School. So that is quite a number of educational establishments to have been through. He has a very impressive and comprehensive CV, if you want to say. His range of experiences are both within Ireland and, of course, abroad. I might just mention a couple of them. So he has been Director of Strategic Planning in the Irish Defence Forces, School Commandant in the United Nations Training School, Military Assistant to the Chairman of the EU Military Committee, UN Military Observer in countries such as Ivory Coast, Chad, Golan, Western Sahara, Somalia, and Lebanon. That just gives us a flavor of his experiences. Major General, we are truly honored that you were able to be here with us today from the first event at 10 o'clock this morning right throughout the day. It is a privilege to have somebody of your standing and status within the National Army here, and of course, the fact that you are a Claremont to boot makes it doubly impressive for us. So I'll call on you now to address us.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks, Mary. There's a man here from the Clare Champion, and he wants to talk to you, because in a couple of years when I cark off, that's my obituary done for nothing. So thanks for that, Mary. It was great. I thought I died and gone to heaven there for a minute. A gwine úsleis mise mer general Adrian na Monaco agus tarn an vrodul goras kunde an klar me as inis me og hukus. Agus mar las ceann fórna óglaigh na hhéireann, agus duine a rúgag agus atóga chun seo I gún ar an clár. Is mór an fribléid John bheith bhór láthair aniu chun líochán Rineen a Chalúra agus a Chomóra. So you know my name at this stage, and I'm a proud Ennisman, you know that much. I'm very honoured to be with you today. Someone asked me earlier, do you work much at weekends? And I said I do, but I have to tell you today I'm not at work, I'm at home. And I'm delighted with that. And I see the O'Neill family with us as well today and come from places like Los Angeles. And I like to think that I, like the O'Neill family, are back home with your people. And of course we had the lovely news sorry, I'm getting a crick in my neck there. We had the lovely news of Joseph and Megan earlier on, and on behalf of the 300 of us here, I would like to thank Joseph and Megan for inviting us to their engagement party. And I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, but I think I can speak for all of us when I say, Jesus, lads, I'm really looking forward to the wedding. As you know, volunteers from all over Clare were to the fore in the fight for Irish freedom, and some of them went to very high office. Michael Brennan from East Clare became Chief of Staff in the 1920s. And the people in Clare were active in the struggle from as early as 1917. And they made up 3 brigades, believe it or not, of the Western Division, the 1st Western Division of the IRA during the War of Independence. And as the conflict escalated, and of course Rineen is the big escalation in Clare, the Clare IRA really got stuck in and took the fight to the enemy. Now, I'm not going to rehearse the events of September 20 because I think that was very well done by Mary and by my boss, the Taoiseach, today. I will say this: as we commemorate the actions of Rineen, we must also remember the ultimate cost of war. And that's not just for ourselves, but for the enemy party as well. There's no monopoly in pain and grief and suffering in war. And I've seen that sadly in the Middle East and Africa over many years. As you know, in the 24 hours after Rineen was the highest period of violence in Clare as a result of the reprisals, etc. You're aware also that our decade of centenary events is now drawing to a close. And I'm glad to say that as a country, I've been very proud of how confident and how mature and how sensitive we've been to the decade of centenaries, 1916, very special, the War of Independence and the Civil War. And I think we've been sensitive to the memory of all the people who lived through the history that we all now share as Irish people, no matter what side your people were on. And it was lovely to hear that at the previous commemoration we had the families, the descendants of the RIC people who lost their lives involved, and that's as it should be. And of course we're able to remember with sensitivity and with matureness, partly because we have wonderful historians in this country, wonderful heritage professionals, and if I can give a plug for our own military archives, wonderful archivists, both the National Archives and the military archives. And if you have a few moments sometime and an internet handy, if you go on the Military Archives website, it is an absolute treasure trove of information. The Military Service Pensions Collection, where people explained what they did in the war in order to earn their pensions, and their first-hand primary accounts of what happened, and they're absolutely magnificent. And of course the Bureau of Military History from 1913 to 1921, interviews with the primary sources. And they tell the stories of the ordinary people who won the war. Now, I spoke to this morning on the main street in Milltown. These ordinary people didn't become famous like Collins and Mulcahy and Cottlebrew and Liam Lynch and these people. And yet the fight for Irish freedom was nowhere without them. They were ordinary people who did extraordinary things. And so it's right and fitting that we remember them today. Without these people, we would not have a republic today, 100 years later. We know the republic is not perfect. It's a work in progress. And we've a lot of work to do to make it better. But I can tell you, as someone who's lived and worked all over Africa and the Middle East and Europe, this is a fantastic republic. And I am so proud to come back to live and work here when I see other countries that perhaps haven't done as well as we have done. I mentioned earlier our heritage institutions like National Archives, etc. But the real theme for me of the decade of centenaries has how the grassroots level have taken ownership of our history. And in every parish, in every county in Ireland, and certainly in Clare, we see local historians, local community groups, local societies owning that history as their history. And that exhibition outside is proof positive you can see that. And today, I want to particularly commend the work of the Mid-Clare Brigade Commemoration Committee. I hope that Mary, you and your committee members and everybody else who made today possible are very proud of what you've achieved, which is remarkable. And if I could finish on this point, I like to think of those people, Ignatius O'Neill and all the other heroes of Rineen, and of all the families that they came from at that time, and of all the heroes of the other actions that culminated in the Free State and later on the Republic. And I like to think if they were here today and they attended that ceremony, that they would be very happy. They would be very proud. And I think the members of that extraordinary revolutionary generation, if they were here, they would be especially happy that you and the committee and we today have kept their hopes and their dreams for Ireland alive, their values, and above all, we have kept their memories alive. How proud would they be today? Goramila Mahagoiv Galer, Berbo.
I'd like to thank Adrian for his very fine address and for his sentiments and his words of congratulations. We really appreciate it and really do acknowledge again the fact that you are here with us today. We're just drawing to a conclusion, so we will have the raffle in a few moments, but I'd just like to take the opportunity of a couple of Mila Buikas, if I may. I want to thank everybody who made today possible, from early this morning till now. But of course, it just probably, we could say that it didn't all happen today, and a lot of work and research has taken place. Adrian mentioned the military archives. If you haven't gone into their website and if you haven't visited, I have to say it is an amazing experience to visit the military archives and read firsthand what is there about, we'll say, our families, our extended families in medal and pension applications. It is an extraordinary read, and it is possibly the most well-managed place I have ever visited in this country. I'd like to thank Father Donna for all of his support over the last several weeks and for celebrating such a beautiful Mass this morning. Donna, thank you. We really appreciate it. like to thank our photographer, John Kelly, videographer, Michael O'Sullivan, and Martin O'Malley, who looked after our sound. I referenced Therese McInerney earlier, but I want to thank Therese for organising the music for here today. Also to thank Rineen National School for providing the music earlier for us, and Frank Whelan and Sean Nealon, of course, who played the pipe so beautifully at Rineen. Again, Adrian mentioned the decade of centenaries. We would not be here without the decade of centenaries. And I want in particular to thank two people, Helen Walsh and Dolores Meany from Clare County Libraries. You have been such a support to us. We really value it, and we want to thank you for being here today. Further, I'd like to thank our local media in particular. Clare FM, I don't know how many times we've been on the radio. It's been fantastic. The support of Clare FM, the Clare Champion, the Clare Echo, and the Clare Herald is second to none. And actually, as I'm talking about the Clare Champion, I want to welcome a man here today to this event. The man's name is Dan Killoury, and he's from New York. Dan was visiting Ireland, and he was reading the Clare Champion. Can you imagine this? Reading the Clare Champion. Dan's granduncle was shot in the War of Independence in Moy coming out from Mass. It's one of the events that we have not yet got around to marking because of the COVID issues. But what a small world to walk in here to the foyer today, and my neighbour, Kathleen Carney, in conversation with this man. So Dan Killoury is here, grandnephew of Dan, who was shot in 1920. I hope I'm right about the date. But again, Dan, thank you for being here, and he has offered his services in any way to our committee. Dan, as I said, lives in New York, so we are delighted to have you and your family here with us today. We hold our meetings in Ina in the community hall. I want to thank the committee there for all of their support. They couldn't have been better. We've been using the hall for a very long time. It's a wonderful facility. We're delighted to have it. Earlier, I made reference to Clare County Council, but there are two people in Clare County Council that I must mention here. Those are Councillor Shane Talty and Councillor Joe Killeen. I would nearly go so far as to say that we mightn't be here at all without your support. I know Joe had to leave, but Shane, we really appreciate it. It is not an easy thing to get a national routeway closed for a commemoration. But, you know, with your good offices, and, you know, Paddy Barry in particular, the engineer, our local engineer, and Enda McNamara, we got there, you know. We had loud concerns about having the commemoration in Rineen. In fact, we probably couldn't have had it, if the truth is to be told, with the volume of traffic that passes there every day. So we really appreciate your efforts. And like I said, only for you, I would be quite sure we would have extraordinary difficulty in having that commemoration today. So mil buíochas. I don't know whether I was heard or not earlier, but at Rineen, one of the things I suppose I feel, and our committee feels, that we haven't injected enough energy into is the whole contribution of Cumann na Món. We would have hoped to have done that certainly pre-COVID or thereabouts. So our intention is to hold a conference in Ennis in the autumn of 2024. It will most likely cover other things that needs a conversation. But one of the areas that we will be looking at is the contribution of women to our independence. We feel that it has been insufficiently addressed to date. And just in relation to that, if there are people in the room, and I know there are many, because as I'm looking around, I know most people who are here, you're people who were in Cumann na Món. We would like their stories. We would like, and if you'd like to touch base with us at any stage, we have a Facebook page, or in any other way, you'll know some of us anyway at the committee, and we're always open to new members joining the committee, but we would certainly welcome people who have knowledge around Cumann na Món in particular. Finally, I think it's finally anyway, well, almost finally, you'll be glad to hear, I want to thank John Burke and the Armada Hotel for being so accommodating. I want to thank you for the fabulous meal. I want to thank your staff for going over and beyond the call of duty to look after us. So a big bullabus to John and the staff of the Armada. And a bit like with Shane and Joe, we certainly would not be here were it not for the hard-working committee that we have. You will not find a committee like the Mid-Clare Commemoration Committee anywhere in the country. I want to thank the committee members. Every single one of our committee members have such a range of skills. So I want to thank the committee members for all of your work over the past couple of years in particular, and in particular with the organisation of this event. We really appreciate everybody's input.
I'm very glad that I've been made responsible for the raffle and not the weather today. So, to help me with the raffle, I'm going to call up on stage someone who has a fantastic name, Sophia Lavelle. And Sophia is the great-great-granddaughter of Tom Burke and the great-great-grandniece of Captain John Burke, both of the 4th Battalion of the Mid-Clare Brigade, and both, of course, served at Rineen. So I've chosen her because she looks quite trustworthy and someone who we can, who will draw our tickets for us. Okay? Yeah. Okay, so the first prize, and you can pull it out there, Sophia, the first prize is a Musgrave voucher for €150 that can be used at any SuperValu or Centra store nationwide. And the winner is, and when you're called, if you don't mind coming forward, all right, to collect your prize, Jerry Curtin. Jerry Curtin, if he's here. Okay. All right. All right, come on, Jerry. Okay, so second prize is a voucher for the hotel here for lunch for 4 people. And the winner of that prize is Maura Lehan. Okay. So, third prize is a fire safety kit, which has been donated by FireSafe, which is owned by our own Pat Kirby. And the winner of that excellent prize is Mike and Ella Layden. Okay, Mike is on his way. I lift this one now, it's quite heavy.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so the fourth prize is a voucher for the Good House in Ina, kindly sponsored by the Good House in Ina. And the winner of that is Liam Ryan. Okay. Right now. Okay, Mary thinks I'm finished. She thinks. Okay.
May I say something?
You may, but then I'm not finished yet, Mary.
All right. There's obviously some unscripted stuff going on. No, I'm back up because I'm not sure if our exhibition will still be open when we're, or is it closed, Pat, as we leave? It's still open. So if anybody didn't get a chance to see our exhibition, it is still open. And just in that context, I want to thank Pat Kirby for supplying the exhibition, and indeed other people who gave us material for it, archival material for it, and to thank Pat Green as well, who helped, and PJ Donlan, who helped to set up that exhibition today.
Okay, so Mary has thanked an awful lot of people here today, but really there's one person who deserves thanks more than anyone else, and that is Mary Crawford herself. Yeah. Now, I have known Mary for many years at this stage, and she has been the driving force behind the work of the Mid-Clare Brigade Commemoration Committee. She works incredibly hard, and including in doing research, and in particular in reaching out to the families of people who have been involved in it. She rings people in America, in Dubai, in Australia. She tracks down grandnieces and grandnephews, and she does this into, she could be working until 11 o'clock at night, and I know this because she rings me. God only knows what time of the day or night we're going to get a call from Mary. She's incredibly hard-working. She is the driving force behind it. And we have a little token of appreciation, which Martina Rin is just going to get. Okay. Thanks, Mary. So there is one other person as well who, in particular with regard to today's event, and he is the secretary of our committee, and that is Colin Hennessy. And Colin, of course, is the grandson of Commandant Seamus Hennessy, and Seamus Hennessy, of course, succeeded Ignatius O'Neill as the OC of the 4th Battalion of the Mid-Clare Brigade, and gave enormous service both to the Mid-Clare Brigade and to Ireland. And Colin, Seamus as well, was one of the driving forces behind the erection of the monument at Rineen a half a century ago. And Colin has followed in his footsteps in remembering and ensuring that we all remember the importance of the events of 1920 at Rineen. And Colin is not just our secretary, but he also has fantastic design capabilities. In case anyone didn't notice, many of the design things, including the envelopes, for instance, he designed those, and also the booklets that we use. So I'd like to ask Colin just to come up. We also have a little token as well for Colin. We decided you might prefer whiskey to flowers. We weren't sure. All right, so that concludes this afternoon. Again, on behalf of the committee, I'd like to thank you all so much for coming, and I wish you a safe journey home. Go míle maith agaibh.